but it's a double distillation of malted barley. We cut very high and very shorted, between 80 and 70%, and the line arms on the way to the condenser is 45 degrees. So our new make is very rich, oily, and very fruity.
45 degrees down.
Down. And we need that because when you put it in a cask, in our climate, the casks are actually fighting, and they're not resting, they're working. They say always in Scotland that they fill their casks and they let them rest for 12 years. So in Israel, no one rests here, never. And 12 years, I think 3 years in the Middle East, it's like 12 years in Scotland. And, so anyway, it's because of our climate, and because of that, we need this kind of new make. And when you taste the first one, this one is the classic, which is just short than 4 years. It's 3.5 years old. That's it.
All right, so the classic, mainly based on ex-bourbon barrels, around 75%. And that what gives it a lot of vanilla flavors, caramel flavors, and we do get also the fruitiness and the maltiness from the new make. It's bottled at 46 ABV, as all of our whiskeys, because we are not chill filtering. We do not color the whiskeys also, so it's all natural color from the wood. And the idea behind the classic is to be a table whiskey. That's how I like to call it. It's a whiskey for the whole family, whiskey that you can bring your friends and drink with. It's a whiskey that's suitable for any whiskey drinker palate. And very easy drinking. And
talk about the STRs.
So beside the 75% ex-bourbon cask, we have 20% STR cask. STR is for shake, toast, and recharge. It's a treatment that we do for cask, a treatment that's been invented by Dr. Jim Swan, especially for maturation in such a hot climate countries. Mainly, sorry?
We didn't hear the beginning. Which one are you tasting?
The classic, the yellow one.
Classic.
Thank you. I'll mute myself from this.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and Chag Sameach. And so, this is the classic. I would like to hear what you think about it.
And just pay attention to the texture, like mouth coating, and this is still from the new make.
At the beginning, the 46% ABV might be a little bit harsh to drink, but if you just give it less than 1 minute in the glass, you can do like this, then it opens up the alcohol vapors at the beginning, and it will be much easier to drink, and then the 46 ABV become an advantage because it gives the whiskey a lot of character, a lot of body, and we have a lot of oils inside, and it really feels good in the mouth.
I had a launching. We were supposed to launch whiskeys all over the world this year. We are currently selling in 20 markets outside Israel. And we just released the first expression, which is a whiskey, because until this year, we just were bottling gin that we make from the same new make. So the gin is based on the single malt. And we talk about the gin later on, maybe Odette will talk about it, but with local herbs and local spices. And then we were just launching and trying to get people to taste a young single malt, which is earlier, it's younger than 3 years. So we don't call it whiskey because we are following the Scotch regulations. So it was 5 months, 10 months, and of course feels much older because of the weather. So this year we just wanted to launch our first classic and then the elements. But of course, because of the situation, most of the time we're just doing all kinds of Zooms in the middle of the night with the West Coast or in America or some others. But our first launching was in Amsterdam this January. And I was going around with my importer, my distributor, to all kinds of stores and tasting the classic. And in one of them, they asked to do a blind tasting because they always ask us, what age do you think, if you compare it to Scotch? You can never compare anything like that, but of course it feels much older. So they went into the back room and came with two glasses. One of them was classic, and the other one was a Glenmorangie 10-year-old. And I was okay, this is a very good, well-known Highland whiskey, and I'm coming with this thing from Tel Aviv, which is like 3.5 years old. And what Tomer said about few minutes to open, it's because of the 46, because of the very short, very oily new make. Of course, Glenmorangie has the tallest hot hills in Scotland. So at first, and it was 40%. At first, people that, we just sent it and you could recognize it's Glenmorangie because it's so floral and so fruity. But then after a few minutes, it just like disappears. And the classic just started to give a lot. And we had much more fuller bodied with this young whiskey compared to a 10-year-old Highland whiskey. And we won the blind tasting. So I stopped being afraid, because I think if you go with a blind tasting, you can never tell lies.
Tal, can you please just explain what ABV means in terms of alcohol by volume?
ABV is the alcohol content.
Alcohol by volume.
Alcohol by volume. So it's 46% alcohol by volume.
Now, if you wanna, sometimes when you get 40% whiskey, that means that they did some chill filtration, because if you don't do chill filtration and you put it in a bottle at 40 or 42, it could be hazy when it gets a little colder because the oil's inside. Now, we think, and a lot of distilleries think, that if you bottle above 46 and don't do chill filtration, you get your original taste. You don't lose anything in the process of and so of course, it's a bit higher, but it's good because you can play with a few drops of water and then discover every time another scent and another taste. But we don't do any coloring and any chill filtration. This is how it goes out of the casks, and then just take it down to 46%.
For you as whiskey drinkers, the whiskey is more close to the way it was in the cask. So it's better, I think.
And for us, it's very easy because we are tasting it from the casks at 67%.
So does your ABV ever go up, or does it always go down, depending on where you're maturing the cask? Do you have humid and dry climates?
It's depending on the humidity. Here in Tel Aviv, we have really high humidity, but we also have really big differences between day and night temperatures. So depends on the period of the year. Sometimes it can go up, sometimes it goes down, the ABV content at the cask. I think in average we see a little up in the ABV content by the end of the maturation. So it will be around 2 to 3% higher than the cask filter.
If you think about it, the summers are much drier here in Tel Aviv. The winters are much drier. The summers are like walking in a soup outside, 36 degrees and 80–90% humidity. So if there's so much water in the air, like humidity, the water don't evaporate from the cask. Mostly it's the alcohol, and so actually the ABV goes down a little bit, and then in the winter it goes up because the waters again it's not very cold here, so it's still a bit hot or warm, but then dry. So you lose both. I think in the end, if you fill it at 64, it can go up to 66, 67.
Yes.
And this is only Tel Aviv. What you asked, David, is our projects and our experiments here around the country. So you know that we are a very small country, but with 5 climate zones. And we are experimenting in the Upper Galilee with some casks. Our biggest and I think the most interesting experiment is we have 30 casks at the Dead Sea, next to the Dead Sea. So of course, lowest place on Earth, very hot, very dry, and air pressure is very high. The sun is actually very hot, but not the UV is low there. You don't get sunburn, and of course the desert. So we are playing. If you're talking about angel share in Tel Aviv, it's around
11 to 12%.
And at the Dead Sea, it's around, we think, 25. But But then you have the distiller's share too, so we're not sure.
A lot. So 25 is when you calculate the distiller share also.
Yeah.
But compared to Scotland or to other colder countries where they have 2 to 3% angel share, so it's really also in Tel Aviv it's extreme angel share. It's really high.
We have the Jewish angels are thirsty.
No, but I think some places in Australia you get the same angel share also.
Yep. Yeah, Sullivan's Cove, for example, in Tasmania, their ABV goes up. It's very dry, over 70%, 70 to 80%.
Wow, yeah.
So they very seldom have a cask strength bottling because it's just too high.
Yeah. Great. Let's go to the sherry. So the second one.
The wine first.
Ah, the wine. Sorry, the wine. So we are entering a series of 3 whiskeys. So we start with the classic, and then you have the element. The elements are actually, we say we just add another element to the classic portfolio or classic profile. So if the classic profile was based on if the classic
It's not for a kiddush.
if the classic profile was based on the ex-bourbon and a little bit of those STR casks, here we take those and we add another element. So the first one is the red wine cask. So of course it's Israeli red wine casks from wineries here, good wineries around. We handpick their casks from, if you know, wineries in Israel, so Castel, Recanati, Tulip, and Pitkin. Mostly contain Cabernet Sauvignons and Carignan from around the country. And I think that the blending was pretty hard.
And I think that's the place to talk about kosher issues in whiskey production. And when we're talking about whiskey production, it's unlike the wine industry. It's much easier. There are less things to take care about, but the thing that we are most concerned about are ex-wine products casks. So here we must take kosher wine products, and of course we have a lot of kosher wineries in Israel, so it's not a problem for us to find or to source kosher wine casks. Actually, this is the hardest work to blend or to produce, because the wine casks are really different from each other. So it's a lot of work to get to the result that is consistent and similar to the last bottle. But that leads us to the next element.
Before that, the rest of the whiskey making is not a problem. We just don't work on weekends. We don't work on Jewish holidays. Of course, we are closed at Passover because whiskey is not kosher. And again, like Tomer said, wines or grape-based products are.
Here you can say the word chametz.
Chametz, yeah.
Whiskey is kosher, not for Passover. It's
Yeah.
chametz.
Actually, this Passover we distilled. No, it was after Passover. We distilled sanitizers and stuff like that because there was a shortage in Israel. So we distilled in the column still that we have there. But I think before the next element, first I want you to. What do you think about this whiskey? Because we had. I'm not the issue here. Tomer doesn't like very winey whiskeys, and I think that this was the hardest job to blend something that is. You can feel it was in a red wine cask. You feel the tannins, the red fruit, or some oak, and then not to be overpowered by the wine because we just don't like it. I think what we like about elements is that you're going to feel it's a sherry, peated, or a red wine, but it's still going to be balanced and not nothing will be overpowered. So I don't do like that if you like it, or like that if you don't.
It's interesting. If you look at other Jim Swan and hot climates like Amrut, Kavalan, they've gone really heavily into those the wine casks, port cherries, etc. And they kind of overwhelm. It's almost like they're too winey. and I think the balance is good on this. You do get the dry tannins on the finish. The wine casks, are they European oak or American oak wine casks, or a mix of
I
both?
think most of them are American, but there are some Europeans too.
Well, I think that's the obvious thing to do, to take the extreme climate and to let the wood just extract all flavors and be overwhelmed, over flavorful, and to disappear the new make at all. But what we decided to do, I think it's harder, but the results we are more satisfied with, is to try and get, although we have such an extreme climate and fast maturation, to have a really balanced whiskey and to try to work with the climate and not to let it overpower the unit.
We did a tasting in London, I think, with the Solist the Vino Barrique, which is an STR, and with our STR that was 8 months
We
old,
made it actually with Mr.
with Ian Chang, and we just did like a tasting, and ours was like, I think it was eight months or something like that, and there, you know, and you see it's the same characteristics. And now we don't like that. I think if you do a STR after 3 months, 3 days, 3 years, it's balances. But then just do a single cast in very hot climate is going to be very, very
intense,
and there are some bottlings from Cavalan to La Maison de Whisky, which are dark, like black, and it's almost scent, I think something like soy sauce. You know, it's like over matured sherry, and in this climate. So before we go to the sherry, David, you wanted to try something after the second whiskey?
Yes, and just something to revisit when we get back to the whiskeys is that there was a comment that the classic was sweeter. That's obviously because of the American oak and the vanilla butterscotch. I get like buttered popcorn with the classic, and this one is more sharp. It's obviously that's the spiciness from the wine casks. I do remember actually I had that 8-month-old wine cask, and it was great, but it's I could imagine that after 3 years that would be a bit very intense. But just to check that our audience is still awake, before we get to the next two, we've got a bit of an interactive game show. I asked Tal in the beginning to think of a story relating to his travels. He can't travel anymore, but at least he can reminisce and think about places he's been to around the world, promoting Milk and Honey, the whiskies, the young single malts, and to come up with to think of an interesting story that he's come across in his travels, that people have perceptions about Israel, about the whiskies, something weird and interesting. Now, he's going to tell us the story, and you guys in the chat have to guess whether it actually is a true story or if it's absolute rubbish. Let's see how good a poker player Tal is.
I'll actually tell you even 2 anecdotes. The first one was in Spain. We just started to think to seal the deal with a local importer next to somewhere in the outskirts of Barcelona, and we had a tasting in a restaurant, and I think like 1 hour into the tasting, someone just understood that I'm from Israel, and then he said, but I thought he said something in Spanish, and someone translated to me that they thought that we don't drink. So this is the first one. And the second one is one of the Decembers, I think last year or 2 years ago, we went into this whiskey show, and I think in Holland, and we thought about a nice little giveaway, but everyone has everything. So we made those little suntan lotions branded with M&H on that, and then we understood that we're not very dark. So before we went, we went out next to the beach and just sat down like that to get even a burn, just to explain to people that we come from a hot climate country. You see this guy, he's like you know, painted wall. Yeah, it's very, very white.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So
yeah.
So we actually got sunburned before we flew to Holland. So we have two of them. Now you have to understand to guess if it's true or rubbish.
Okay, we'll do the first one first. In Spain,
But we don't drink.
The Spaniards who think that Israelis and Jews don't drink. True or absolute rubbish? Okay, we've had a couple of trues, 3 trues, 1 rubbish. So 3-1 so far. Anybody else committing themselves? I'm going to say it's true. It sounds plausible.
It is true. It is true. And I was actually drinking for an hour before this guy.
Right. And the next one, getting a quick suntan before heading off to the Netherlands. Look, I'm prepared to say that it's I'm prepared to say that it's true. It's worth, yeah. I reckon you did it. Nobody else seems to think so.
No, it's rubbish. But we did hand out suntan lotions, Brandon, and you know the skin.
I'll have you know. I'll have you know.
And anyway, yeah, we were handing out suntan lotions in a few shows in Europe, and people got crazy of that. They didn't believe. You see the Scots guys, and you know the Dutch are all very white. And so if you come to Tel Aviv, it was like an icebreaker for us. But no, we didn't get any sunburn. There probably was the suntan lotion was probably in such low quality that if you put it, you get sunburn. So.
Well, you guys seem to brand everything. You've got your highwayman outfits. You've got shows your. Those are cool.
Okay, so I think.
Yeah, and I've got the socks as well, which also.
The socks is great. Yeah.
Yes.
You know, the socks were just a marketing idea, but I think someone asked us to send some for a bartender's party at Christmas in Amsterdam. So they just, you know, took the socks and hang them above the fireplace or whatever. Yeah. We send it to them. Right. If you're ready for the next.
Yep, next one. Let's do the sherry cask.
All right. I've got a question for everyone. Can I ask a question? Oh, you're on mute. I'm muted.
No, you're good.
Okay.
Yep. Go for it, Darren.
I really liked the classic, and I really didn't like initially, relatively speaking, the red wine cask. But the longer it sits in my mouth after drinking it, the more I enjoy it. Whereas with the classic, it was very easy to drink very quickly. Like it's a session scotch. You could be, you know, half a bottle in and not even realize you're drinking. So I don't know if anybody else thought something similar. The longer the red wine one sits on my palate, the more enjoyable it seems to. I don't know. I'm wondering if anyone else had any thoughts.
I think it's actually because of the red wine. You have tannins. It's like a good red wine. It takes time to open. And I think the whiskey in those casks are, because you get like a very dry finish. It's like you know, stepping on a brick. And then it started to open and you feel some more and more fruits. Because when it starts, yeah.
And dark chocolate finish. And it's more complex than the classic.
But this is what, it's great because this is what exactly we aimed about the classic. Just, you know, be open and like Tomer said, a whiskey for everyone. And with the Element series, we really love it if you like everyone, but I think that everyone can find someone, some whiskey that he likes better than the others. And I think this one is a very nice case. So the sherry one, So if we talked about the kosher issue, so wines from Israel is not a problem, but no one produces sherry outside Jerez in Spain, in southern Spain. And we couldn't source any kosher sherry. I think we know one of them, which is a Tio Pepe, which is a fino one, but we couldn't get the casks. So we needed to do a whole seasoning project from scratch. So it was a collaboration between the winery, the bodega, rubbish, with a rabbi from Barcelona, the bodega, and the cooperage. So we actually produce the kosher wines. We have PX, Pedro Jimenez, and we have Oloroso in two sizes of casks, 250 liters and 500 liters. And I don't know what they're doing with the wines, but they're probably distilling them or whatever, because we couldn't find them an importer here in Israel. Sherry is not a big thing in Israel, but we still can source the casks and we can source the quality of the wine, and we don't just buy another sherry from a broker, a cask broker. So the good thing about that we can trace the quality and of course the added value that it's kosher. So it's I think the first kosher
and the added
whiskey.
value to the bottle because it's really expensive process.
Yeah. Rubbish.
So this is not a sherry bomb, as you can mention, but again, we talk about balance, and here in the elements sherry, we try to balance between the ex-bourbon cask, which are around 50% from each bottle, and the two types of sherry casks, Oloroso and PX, which are the rest of the 50%. We do have just a little bit of SDR and virgin oak, but most of the casks are ex-bourbon and two types of sherry inside this blend. So it's, again, easy drinking, but you do feel the sherry notes, and I think it's, but well,
Yeah.
it's my whiskey, but I think it's one of the best sherry whiskeys that I ever tasted.
You can definitely get the hint of the PX, that liquid raisin character. It's not overpoweringly sweet, but you definitely get the PX. I find that even just a drop of water, you get more of the dry tannins and the longer finish. It doesn't. It makes it more spicy, not less.
There is.
And also you can feel the silkiness from the Oloroso that gives a lot of silk feel in the palate.
Aaron, what do you think about this one?
Oh, look, I quite like it. It's getting easier as the night goes on. By the time we get to the last one, you could probably put a bottle of Johnny Walker Red in front of me and I'll be happy. But again, it gets fuller. I think one of the things that I'm noticing, maybe that's part of what you're trying to present, that I feel like on the front of my tongue and just under my tongue, it gets seemingly fuller as we've moved from the original classic to the red, now to the sherry. I don't know if that's, I'm not a whiskey connoisseur, I just like my whiskey, and that's what I noticed. And again, the longer it sits on my tongue, the more I like it. I'm not in love with the initial taste, but as it sinks in and it sits around, it really settles lovely.
Thank you. I think the longer it stays in your mouth, the spiciness.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of PX cask gives a spicy finish. So that's from the PX. And just to be mentioned, it's the only proper kosher sherry cask in the world. So that's really my thing to know. Although most of the Jewish nowadays drink other sherry whiskeys, and it's not a big issue for some people, but it's something to know.
I think that we just started to work like a year ago with an American importer and a company called Impex, which are Jewish owned, but they don't, focus on the Jewish segment in America. And of course, when in America you have an importer and then you have distributors in every state. And I think that we didn't advertise, we didn't target the Jewish market in New York and New Jersey, but I just got an email and they said that a tri-state distributor is out of stock because he started to sell it in Manhattan, but then the Jews discovered that there is a whiskey from Israel, and the whole thing disappeared between Brooklyn and upstate New Jersey. So it's an added value for us. But if you don't focus on them, we Jews we know about each other, and then you can pick your stuff and do it. So the Americans are killing us because we are just sitting next to the casks and singing to them, please get older and get older, because we need to wait for the 2 years minimum to bottle and blend and bottle the whiskey. Let's go to the last one.
Yes. So, who likes peated whiskeys here? All right, so I bet that you will not really like, no. If you like peated whiskeys, you probably like heavily peated whiskeys, or at least Lafroig, Lagavulin, and this is a lightly peated whiskey. All right, so we do feel, again, we talk about balance in this series, and we didn't want to make some heavily peated whiskey, but I consider this as an entry whiskey for the peat world. So it's slightly peated. You do get a really nice combination between the peat at the first in the nose, then it comes in the finish, but it's really smooth and really sweet whiskey.
So we do have peated barley. I think every 6 months we stop the regular production, which is non-peated barley, and do like a week or two of distilling, mashing and distilling peated barley. So here, this is not the peated barley. Maybe this one. No,
the first batch is only peated casks.
Yeah, so it's only peated casks. So we source casks from Ireland, from all kinds of distilleries that makes peated whiskies, and you still have a lot of peatiness and maritime scents inside the wood. And because of the heat, we get a lot of what's left there, even with a 27-year-old Isla, which it's not very peated. If you take a very old cask and you just try to age and you make whiskey in a cold country, you don't get a lot. But here we can still use those casks.
This reminds me of something like the Tomaten Kubokken, the Highland lightly peated.
Yeah. Actually, the Tomaten Kubokken, I think it's Isla casks.
It's Isla
also.
casks, yeah.
So it's very similar.
Yeah.
And here we use ex-Isla cask from.
But they use younger casks. We can
some
use
distillery that reminds the world frog.
Now it's that everybody that uses a peated cask uses the same distillery, and I don't know.
No, actually,
we have some more.
We have two different distilleries.
Okay, right.
So yeah,
Glenrothes, Tomaten, and I don't know whether it's because they hold the peat longer in the wood or just because they're cheap. I don't know.
I don't know. But I'll tell you, we have even some Lechegs.
That I'm interested in, because that's one of my favorite distilleries in terms of a light peat.
You have to come over. They're very special casks, but I think in the case of those two casks or whatever we have from Lecheg, it's more distiller share than angel share.
Well, so I think summing up the element series, what we tasted now, I think every one of you can probably choose one of the 4 whiskeys that you really like and you will be happy to buy in the future. And that's what we wanted to achieve in this series when planning it. I think every palate can find at least one whiskey that he really likes in this 4 whiskeys.
There's, I think the only one that is sold out in Australia is the peated.
Yeah.
The other 3, the classic, the wine, and the sherry cask, are still available. Those, I think, if you look at the website, thewhiskylist.com.au, you should be able to find them there. But I definitely know that the peated is out of stock because I think I got the last 2 bottles available in Australia.
Yeah, it's well, it takes time to get to Australia from Tel Aviv, but I think that the importer didn't order the same amount. I think the smaller amount was the peated, and it was sold out on the first day that he got the shipment. So it was sold out immediately, and I guess you got the 2 last ones.
So before we just go on to like what's next after the Element series. I remember you talked about a peated Rob Roy cocktail. I'm curious to know your recipe because that's one of my favorite cocktails. Is a peated Rob Roy. Some of the bars here make them, and if you are able to share the recipe, that would be great.
It's just a classic Rob Roy with our peated, but the peated elements. But I'm using either a red vermouth, a good one like a Gancha or a Neuprat, and the bitters, the one from Ghana, which is a bit more fruity, and or just a nice Amaro instead of the vermouth. But it's just a very simple one. But I guess we have another thing here. That is here. So this is our gin, which is again a single malt based gin with Jaffa oranges, lemon peels, and of course the secret ingredient is za'atar. If you've been to Israel, you know what za'atar is. You get those bagels from Jerusalem with this green spice. It's like a very wild and spicy oregano. So if you talk about the peated one, we have gin in a peated cask, but this is only distillery exclusive. We just made 1 cask for just for us probably. And this is making a very nice peated Negroni or just a nice peated martini. So I think, yeah, this is my it's a lockdown thing. So you come back home, it's very early, and you meet your family again, and they don't go anywhere, so you need a drink. So I'm experimenting with all kinds of old recipes and with a different kind of mixing. You asked about the future, and I think that we have another series coming up, and we call it the Apex series. And this is actually it's Tomer's playground, so Tomer is going to talk about it.
Well, so if in the Elements and Classic we talk a lot about balance. Here we talk about our craziness or things that we think should be bottled at cask strength, some exceptional cask, single cask, small batches, all cask at cask strength, all bolted at cask strength. And the first 2 will be really interesting white wine casks that we sourced here in some really nice winery in the mountains of Jerusalem. And
they're all been around probably your Jewish show. Castel Winery, Chardonnay, which is I think maybe the best Chardonnay in Israel, but they're making it. It's on the lees and aged in casks with bétonnage, with everything. So it's like an old style Chardonnay that leaves a lot in the cask.
And the second release from the Apex series, which I guess the most of it will go to the US, but maybe we can say some. It's the Pomegranate wine casks. Pomegranate. Yes, I'm talking about this.
So there is a winery in Israel that makes wines out of pomegranate. They're called Rimon. You know, Rimon is a pomegranate. The Rimon winery up in the Upper Galilee, next to the Dalton, and they're making like 800,000 to 1 million bottles a year, exporting a lot, and it's mostly sweet fortified wine like port, but from pomegranates and not from grapes, which is crazy. It's very interesting, and you know, full of tannins because of the they have their own pomegranate variety that grows only there, and they do have some other dry red wine. So we visited the guys there a few times, and we had an agreement with them. We started experimenting, and I think that this is the one that is making most of the noise about Milk and Honey. And so we're using pomegranate wine casks, which is very Israeli and it's something for us. If you're looking for the Milk and Honey DNA, the M&H DNA, it's a part of that. It's the za'atar and the Jaffa oranges in the gin, and of course pomegranate wine casks, which are just
I think it's
so
a
different.
combination between two things we want to do. One of them are keep innovating and find for something new and show the world something really new that no one has used before. And the second thing is the willingness to stay Israeli, and it's really Israeli thing to use pomegranate casks. So
Well,
I think that if you look at the future, so this is you see the core range, which is the classic, and of course the 3 elements. We might add another one to the elements, but then small batches and single cask from all kinds of crazy ideas like pomegranate cask, beer casks, white wine casks, and rum casks, and even kosher cognac casks. We have a connection with Godet, which are from La Rochelle, from Cognac. They're making kosher cognacs for the last 50 years, probably. So we have some casks from them. So this is finished or fully matured in a kosher wine cask. So this is the Apex area, which is, and of course, Dead Sea is going to be in that. Kinneret, you know, the Sea of Galilee casks are going to be in that series.
Different aging locations.
And not very consistent, because every cask or every small batch can act different, and probably small batches and small numbers of bottles. So there's but this is the greatest thing about being a craft distillery. We can play and we can experiment all the time, and from time to time have a nice drink too. So thank you so much, guys.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Well, thanks, gentlemen, and for being optimistic and hoping we can travel soon. Do you have tours of the distillery? Can you book tours, or is it just closed?
No,
Right now it's closed.
Not now, but when we but normally yes.
Normally we are really happy to host everyone. If you are in Israel, make sure to check our website and to book a tour.
We are actually sitting in the visitor center. There's a bar here, a little store, and here you have tastings, and there's a tour of the distillery. So yeah, usually it's open in around almost like 1,000 people a month when things are normal, but we'll see about that.
Well, thanks very much. Anybody got any other questions for the Milk and Honey team? It's fantastic, and really appreciate your time. Well, this morning for you and this evening for us. I think everybody's still drinking.
I just want to say that was awesome. That's all I got to say. I don't know how everyone else feels, but to ever organise that, to be able to sit here with alcohol and talk to the guys who made it in Israel, that was just awesome. Rabbi, I'm sure you agree. It's just awesome. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, guys.
Wilson can go do it too. My son's
Absolutely.
sitting there. He hasn't drunk at all for the last.
Sorry, quickly, a question. where is this whiskey available in Sydney?
From David?
In
No,
Sydney,
Thanks,
David.
It's available. I know some are at World of Whisky in Double Bay.
Right,
On the North Shore?
No, on the North Shore, no, there's nothing on the North Shore.
okay.
But they ship everywhere, and there's some guys that live on the North Shore. I know Larry, who works at World of Whisky, lives on the North Shore, so he can deliver. No, best is to contact World of Whisky, and I know they've got everything except the peated in stock.
Okay.
תשאל את אמריקה.
Don't argue.
עדיף סטור באוקספורד סטריט אם יש.
I think that
Thank you.
our reporter has a website as well. It's called the Spirit Safe or something like that. So you can try to look at there. So someone asked what else, what's next? So of course, first of all, the whole shipment is on its way. So the Element and the Classic again, and we are waiting for to finish with this is just a prototype of the Pomegranate. So it's either going to be the Pomegranate or the white wines toward the end of this year, beginning of next year in Australia.
You'd better add an extra case of the Pomegranate for me, please. I'm putting my order now.
David, a question. Can you
Noted.
Street,
ליquor סטור של
in Oxford? There's a liquor store in Oxford that sells kosher
בריסבן סטריט.
Brisbane Street.
Okay, guys, if there's no any more questions, we got to go back to work.
Soon.
Thank you very much. חג שמח.
חג שמח.
שנה טובה.
Thank you very much for letting